Let's look at the American League West as far as the division goes and see where we stand. We know the A's, they've won 20 ball games. They're going to challenge the Tigers and the Mets for the all-time worst records in the history of the sport. Mets were 40 and 120, whatever they won. I think they didn't play the whole 162 games. They won 40 ball games, and the A's right now have won 20. And they had a 7 or 8 game winning streak amidst that 40 wins or 20 wins. So the A's are going to challenge that, and they are also going to play the Angels twice in September. They're the only American League West team, the Angels, that get 2 cracks at the A's, which is a big advantage. That's 6 games. They should win all 6. So that could help them in a wild card pursuit. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's go look at it from bottom up, and we'll start with Seattle, who did win last night, and they're a game under 500. They just really have not gotten on track really all year. They haven't gotten a lot of production out of Rodriguez. Even some of their pitching has not been phenomenal. Castillo's been okay. Kirby's had a couple of bad outings, Gilbert and everything else. So they have plenty of arms, but they haven't really quite got on track. But their major issue is they're just not a big offensive team. I mean, that's just all there is to it. They are not going to hit consistently. They are not going to, there's just not a lot in that lineup that scares the heck out of you. I saw them 6 times against the Yankees. Obviously they last year they did a good job there second, and they won a lot of close games, but they're not a big offensive team. I mean, that's just all there is to it. Kelnick's bounced back, had a pretty good year. The catcher's got some power. I understand that. France only has a short amount of home runs. Rodriguez has not been as great as you thought he might be. They're just not really they're not a big-time offensive team, so they're going to need pitching on a day-in, day-out basis to be superb, because they're not going to be able to overcome a bad outing. And that's where Seattle, and that's why they find themselves where they find themselves. They're in 4th place. They got 3 teams to overtake. They're under 500 still. Now, last year I wrote them off, and then they played real well, and they made the playoffs and won a series in Toronto and almost, put a big charge in Houston if they had won that first game when Alvarez hit that home run against Robbie Ray in the 9th. So this Seattle team is capable, and with those pitchers, they all pitch well. A couple of starts through the rotation, they hit. They win some. They get some hits with runners in scoring position, and all of a sudden you can have an 8 to a 10 game winning streak in the blink of an eye. But it is a tough division. They haven't played that great in the division. They've lost series to Texas. Houston always plays well against them. They lost a series in Anaheim recently. They lost earlier this year to Anaheim at home. I just don't know where Seattle is. They deserve our respect. Postseason team last year, 90 wins the year before that. But sometimes teams don't fire. The Mets aren't going to fire. The Padres may not fire. Seattle may not fire. And as far as the division is concerned, that's team number 1. I wouldn't put a whole bunch of money on them making a postseason. Number 3 are the Angels, and they've done everything they know they can do to fortify their ball club with injuries and everything else. That includes Moustakas, played first base last night. That includes Escobar, they brought over from the Mets, because Rendon is always hurt at third base. I mean, obviously, Ohtani and Trout, especially Ohtani's had great offensive years. They strike out too much, but in this day and age, nobody seems to care. So you live with it, and obviously they've hit 1 million home runs. When they go back-to-back, they don't lose. Pitching has not been terrible. Detmer's pitched well last night. Ohtani's done an excellent job. They use a long rotation, which is a problem, because, they have it's tough enough to find 5 pitchers, and they try to find 6, which is very dicey. But again, the Angels are a team that, they played really well into this recent stretch where they didn't play that well against the Dodgers and the Rockies. So you got to keep that in mind, too. Listen, they won last night in a wild pitch in the 9th against the White Sox. So maybe they're going to get a little something going. The Angels are going to be on the periphery all year long in the division. And they're going to be on the periphery, of course, for the wild card. Are they going to win 90 games? They're probably going to have to make the playoffs. I don't think they're a 90-win team. They will do everything in their power to fortify the ball club. Obviously, pitching is always what they need. They're a little top-heavy offensively, too. Maybe Moustakas can help that. Maybe, obviously, Escobar, and he was a big disappointment with the Mets, but maybe he can help that as well. They should be in the mix in the last month of the season. I'm not sure about Seattle. They should be, and we shall see from that standpoint if they have enough to put them over the edge. Remember, in the American League, Baltimore, Tampa, Texas, American League Central, There's not a lot of maneuverability with Houston and the Yankees right now in the 5th and the 6th spots because those two teams are big-time teams despite poor records. So as a result, to go out there and crack one of those spots and push the Yankees or Houston aside, it's going to take a major doing. So I'm not sure if the Angels have it within them to do that. Now, Houston hasn't played that well either as of late. They've lost 13 of their last 20. Which is a problem. They obviously were fortunate to beat the Dodgers one game here this past weekend at Dodger Stadium. And, they haven't scored a ton of runs. If you look at their losses in the last last 20 games, there's a lot of games where they've scored one run and even worse. And, they've had some uprisings. They scored 10 runs against the Mets, the rubber game of that series last week at Minute Maid Park. But their offense is, very up and down. No Alvarez. And that's a major problem. No, Brantley hasn't played yet. I'm not sure what you can do counting on him. And Abreu hasn't hit a lot of home runs. He's given them very little punch in the middle of that order. And Altuve missed the first couple of months of the season. So they got some problems from an offensive perspective. And their bullpen has not been as good. Montoya has been awful in that bullpen. Their bullpen has not been lights out as it was last year, and that's a problem too. Presley's been very good, but the other ones haven't been so good. So, been a little spotty. And obviously they've had some injuries with their rotation. They've been very, very spotty. Haven't been that phenomenal. They're only 6-7 games over 500, but you want to bet against the Astros, do it at your own risk. I'm not betting against Dusty, and I'm not betting against the franchise. That team has been you can scream and yell all you want about sign stealing if you're the Yankees or the Dodgers. You find me a team with the maybe exception of Atlanta that has had as much success as Houston's had in the last 6-7 years. You're not going to find it. I mean, they've been, 19 World Series. They lose the 20 against Tampa in the pandemic. They were good, lost a game 7. 21, they lost to Atlanta. They won another pennant, and then last year they won the whole thing. You find me somewhere where they have not done a good job as an organization, so I'm not writing them off at all. But again, I'd be a little worried about their offense, and obviously their bullpen is not as stalwart as it's been, and they have no Verlander and no Garcia, so they got some issues as far as the rotation is concerned. No McCullers all year. They're going to hope that Valdez and Javier can carry it, maybe Hunter Brown. So that's where we stand with Houston. I still think they'll figure out a way to make the postseason. That leaves us Texas, that now has turned around and lost 3 games in a row. With Texas, you wonder about their pitching. They have a very good offensive team. They hit 270 as a ball club. We saw them this week at Yankee Stadium. They're a very, very good offensive team. So you don't worry about their offense. They're going to hit Simeon, Seager, Garcia's got 1 million home runs. They're going to hit. He hit the home run on Friday night. You're worried about their bullpen, and you're worried a little bit about their starting rotation. Of all these very, very good, Dunning's done a nice job. He pitched well against the Yankees, which I was impressed with. But, from a standpoint of starting rotation, they're shy a couple of pitchers, no DeGrom. And Grace had blister issues and everything else. And you got to wonder about their bullpen. Their bullpen is not great. It was terrible on Sunday in the 8th inning when they imploded and gave up 3 runs. And, that's going to make it tricky if they can hold on here and, win the division. Now, they got a nice lead. They got a 5 or 6 game lead. They have a veteran manager who's not going to panic, and they have a big payroll and a good GM, and they're going to spend money to add in a month. So I think Texas will do enough to hold on and win the division. I really do think they will do enough there. And that means that the Angels, and if I think that, and I think the division is going to be won by Texas, that means teams like the Angels and Seattle are going to have to push the Yankees and the Astros to get a wild card spot. Because I don't think Baltimore is coming back to the pack. Too many young players who they continue to bring up good reinforcements from the minor leagues. Maybe they make a big move at the deadline and add a pitcher. They can use one. But they're 19 games over 500. They played well on the road. So and they got a good bullpen. So obviously Baltimore, and last year they got a little taste of it, which is going to help them. The Yankees are the Yankees. I'm not writing the Yankees. Like Houston, I'm going to think that they'll win enough games to make the postseason. They're going to get their rotation straightened out. So my point is, from an American League West standpoint, and the fact that Texas, might have too big a lead right now, if you're the Angels and you're Seattle, you've had decent, especially the Angels, you've had a decent year so far. Seattle's got good pitching, and they're not out of it. But Seattle and the Angels, to make the postseason in the American League, it's probably only going to be one way, wild card. It's probably going to have to come at the expense of two huge teams with big payrolls. One's the world's champ, and the other one's the Yankees. And three, you're going to have to figure out a way to get the 90 wins, because that's what it's going to take. I'm not sure if those two teams can do that. So right now, I still think it's the big six. Forget the big five. I think it's the Orioles, Tampa, and the Yankees, and I think it's Houston, Texas.